some Hyundai valve cover gaskets. I'm going to clean off some of the dirt and oil before I even take them apart. Got to pull the plenum off. Oh, running out of brake clean. I hate that. These are all aluminum too, so I'm not sure about rubber condition on some of these. I think that they're similar to a lot of other vehicles. Oh, the rubber feels pretty good. We should be good there. Gaskets are on their way. I'm trying to cool this thing off a little bit because it's really hot. And customer's waiting. It's like 3 hours labor or so, 3.5. And the customer wants to wait for it. I already unbolted the upper hose, so it's way too hot. I'm going to give it about 20 minutes to cool off a little bit. This is about the same age as that Nissan from yesterday. But for some reason, they know how to make rubber that doesn't destroy itself after a few years. So that's a good sign. See, the washer fell off the clamp. What's the chances of finding that thing? So I started taking the air box out just to get a look. I spotted it down there. I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me grab my magnet. I hope it's steel and not aluminum. It's got to be steel. It's down there, trust me. See it right here. My magnet's going to go right to it. Boom. Winner. Joe's putting a leveling kit in this Dodge Ram. He wants to lift it. So he's gonna put a lift kit in a brand new Dodge Ram. Some of these brackets you can take the harness off of and leave them on the valve cover. And some of the brackets you have to unbolt from the valve cover because you can't really get at the connectors as easy as it is to take the bracket off. So that's what I'm working on now. I'm trying to get all of these, all the obvious connectors out of my way. This one will probably be easier to pop out of the bracket and leave the bracket on. Whew. Always make sure you keep your weather-packed rubber on your male connector. Oddly enough, you can't get to the tab to get this off the bracket, and the bolts kind of block it. So you could use a wrench, or you could use your trusty pick to pop down this detent, slide that off. Now you can get at that from underneath. I hate breaking these things. I like to put them back where they were. Not break anything, but sometimes you can't avoid it because they make it almost impossible to get it apart. Trying to push on my pliers from a spot that won't pinch my fingers. There you go. A little bit of dancing, it's out. The way I prefer to do these, I know a lot of guys will take the intake off, take all the valve covers off, do them all at once and put it all back together, but I've always done the front valve cover because it's easiest. Get the stuff out of the way to do that, get it done, and then anything that's in the way from the back I can move over the one I've already done, take the plenum off and do the rear valve cover. But, to each their own. You know, there's no right and wrong way to do it. As long as you get it done, you make good time on the job, win. Wiring harness and the coils out of the way. Injectors unplugged so nothing breaks in there. And get this hose off. Probably could lift it out on the valve cover, but it's just one less thing to deal with while trying to lift it in and out. And not mess up the new gasket when it's going together and things like that. Oh, you know what? This bracket blocks the nuts, so I have to take these nuts out. That's a shame. And then once that's out of the way, I can unbolt the front valve cover. I had to take this off. I was trying to do it with it on my way, save a couple steps, but it didn't work. So I took it off, set it on the side over here. Now I got everything out of my way pretty good. So when I'm dropping the valve cover back on, I'll only have to hold this out of my way a little bit like that. And I'll drop that on. Piece of cake. And there's some glare in there. Sorry guys. This one might set the record for most bolts in a valve cover. It's been a while since I've done one of these, but look at a pile of bolts. I mean, it's crazy how many bolts are in this thing. And it still leaks. Kind of weird. Alright, we got Christmas presents. See what they look like. Nice. Here comes the plenum gasket and everything. It's not a pry bar or chisel, but Vessel doesn't say that. And this is removing a valve cover. Technically, it's not a pry bar or chisel, it's a valve cover remover. Specialty tool. Oh, that's nice. It makes me happier than a well-maintained engine. No matter how careful you are with the dirt and the sand, sometimes it's going to get in there. So I'll wipe any tiny little particles of dirt I can see off the cam lobes, and then I'll pour a little bit of fresh oil on them. You don't want to run all the dirt down into the crankcase, so you want to wipe it all off first. But the problem is you dry off the cam lobes while you're wiping them. You don't want to have a dry start on the cam lobes. There's always an oil film on there a little bit, I guess, but it just makes me feel better to pour a little oil on the cam right before I put the valve cover back on. And these have joints. Wherever you see a joint and the timing cover goes to the cylinder head, you have to put a little silicone on. I also try not to drop the old silicone into the motor. Chances of hurting anything are pretty slim, but it is possible. So I try to prevent it where I can. Cleaning this head off and trying to go outward all the way around so you're not dumping particles of dirt in the motor. These things are more fragile than people realize. I mean, we get away with a lot of stuff when it comes to repairs on these kinds of things, but engines are getting more and more sensitive because there's so much going on inside them. And you really got to keep your rag from carrying dirt around. It takes a little bit of patience, but this is the critical part. And like I said, on these newer engines especially, the clearances are a little tighter. That's why you can run 0-16, because they're really pushing the clearances so that they can run lighter oil. Machining processes are better, which means tighter clearances. There's a lot of loose sand. You guys saw I blew this off. I sprayed brake clean, and there's still loose sand everywhere because it's trapped in the cracks and crevices. You can't get it all out. Try to pull these off. The silicone's so hard and dry now that it just comes off with your nails. You don't need a special tool when it's that hard and brittle. A little bit of sand here, you can see. I definitely get that off. Got me a new brake clean jar to try. The atomizer Sure Shot. Seems okay. Definitely want to get all the oil residue off wherever the joints are going to be. Where you're going to apply silicone, you don't want any oil residue because it'll keep the silicone sticking. So I'll usually wipe that area down 2 or 3 times just to make sure I got most of the 99% of the oil off there. I already cleaned this off with the parts washer, but it's a mineral spirits parts washer. So now I want to clean the mineral spirits off, and brake clean is great for that. That way the rubber has a chance of binding to the aluminum in the valve cover, and it won't fall off as easy. You can see the cover's all whited out from the brake clean. Let that drip dry a minute before I carry it across the shop. This gasket barely stays in place, but I think it'll be okay. I turned the valve cover over. It doesn't fall out right away. And it shows you it's got the pads here where the silicone is going to go on the head. So I'm just going to drop my silicone on. This thing's ready to go. Just a dab of silicone on each joint. You can see blue all the way around before you even bother putting your bolts in. It's awful tempting to buzz these in with a power tool, but wherever I can't fit my pickle juicers in, they're a little chubby. So I got to, I just use my socket and extension with my hand. That's all. All the rest of them I can get my fingers on them, but some of these on the bottom end and the coil hole area, there was no room. Not for these guys. A little too much pickle juicing over the years. Alright, now we're ready for power tools from the center out. They give you an order specifically, but all that really matters is you start from the middle and work your way out. And I don't even tighten all these all the way. I'll just, as soon as they feel like they're starting to snug, I stop, do the perimeter, get them all snug, and then I go back and torque them all down. Work spec's 8 pound-feet. Kind of surprising. My 1/4 inch doesn't go up that high. I always go back to the ones I torque first, just to make sure when everything else settles, sometimes all of a sudden they're not as tight as you thought. Even with a torque wrench. You have to break in a couple of dipsticks. Back in the day, I always take them out now. This one's been tweaked already too. I always take them out. I used to try to work around them and it'd snap, so I just take them out now. Save yourself the hassle. Pull them out of your way. A couple more brackets to go. We're getting close now. That's in, that's in. Start pulling this stuff back. I'm not going to put this on yet because the intake's got to come off. It's awful noisy. It's always making noise. Always making noise. Oh, there you go. That can stay on because that attaches to the lower, not the plenum. So, don't forget your clamp. Sometimes you get ahead of yourself and you'll move on and never get back to that. And then other people would say someone didn't know what they were doing when they worked on it, just because you're trying to get stuff done. Nature of the beast. I do have to leave this tube loose because it blocks the 12mm bolts that hold the plenum on. So I'm going to leave this breather tube loose. A couple of electrical connectors, and I think there's a brace bolt on each side in the back. And then it should lift off. These Sonex sockets are a nice compromise between chrome and impact. They're not crazy thick, but it's chrome moly instead of chrome vanadium, so they're a little better as far as lifespan goes, I think. But although my chrome sockets from Gear Wrench have been pretty good so far too, but I haven't really put them through a lot of use yet, so we'll see. This is the bracket, the brace for the back of the manifold, so it's not vibrating and doing weird stuff. It's kind of, it's really important. A lot of guys leave bolts out of these things and all, but it keeps the manifold from doing that and cracking eventually, causing weird noises in the dashboard of the car. All kinds of stuff's possible. I always put the bolts back and all this stuff. Yeah, this 12 back here, they kind of hide a little on you. But if you're sneaky, doesn't matter, you get it anyway. You got the electrical connectors, got a safety lock, like a giant fuel injector for the throttle body. The one throttle body bolt holds this bracket on. Now I think it's 6 or 8 or so plenum bolts here, and I'll be able to lift this bad Johnny off of here. The throttle body gasket broke, and it don't come with one of those. I gotta get one. I gotta go up front and tell them to get me a throttle body gasket. The only reason I take the throttle body off the plenum just because it's easier than popping them coolant hoses off and having to top off the coolant system and stuff like that. to the parts washer. In we go. Going as smoothly as I hoped. Feel it. All right, winner.
You get a chance to measure it, Jimmy?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 second.
I get it. You're in the middle of something, I'll go grab mine.
Just torquing my VC.
Oh yeah, torque it.
Torque the VC. It's 8 foot-pounds, and this torque wrench starts at like 8 foot-pounds, so it's like...
I do have a, I think I have an inch-pound, but it's cheap SK one.
I have a 1/4 inch inch-pound, but this is the spec's 8 foot-pounds.
That's weird, right?
So I use my 3/8, it starts at about 8 foot-pounds.
Oh, I can. No, I'll drive. It's a nice new truck. A brand new Dodge. That should get me back.
Actually, it smells like a new truck. It smells like Jimmy's truck.
It's a 2022.
Except it doesn't have as much of a commie smell.
Well, different.
Oh, was it built in Tennessee too?
I thought you said calming.
Toyotas are built in America. GM, Ford, and Chrysler are built in Canada and Mexico.
Mexico.
Definitely don't want it bound up at all. Something's holding it.
I just got a hang up from General Electric people. These companies.
There's a wiring bracket that goes on the manifold brace, and they're 14s. There's a 14 at the bottom and a 14 at the top. So I just use my flex head Capri ratchet and a 14mm Sunex short socket. Before I go tightening any braces, you always want to torque the manifold at the gasket before you tighten the braces. The braces don't matter as much as the sealing of the intake, right? Alright, home stretch. 1 10mm bolt. It's kind of strange. All the rest are 12s. That wire harness bracket's only plastic, so. Those are a little bit long. Okay, one more once over. Electrical connectors. All my clamps slid into place. Clamp back there, clamp on the brake booster hose. Cam sensors are plugged in. All my little brackets are snugged up. Wire looms back in their clips. Look at that. Put that air box on there and fire this thing up. Couple 10s. A lot of guys over tighten those clamps too, and these wire clamps will actually cut that rubber. So as soon as you see it compressing the rubber and you can't turn it on the plastic or the throttle body, it's tight. You don't want to damage them. I see a lot of them where it's split under the clamp and stuff. Pretty good too. This light stayed charged and lit the whole job. So that's all you need out of it. Perfect. I do want to get a wireless charger and maybe a second light, so I always have a fully charged one, because if the job was another hour or two, I'm sure it wouldn't last 6 hours. I think that was all about 4, and this took about 3 hours. Taking my time, videoing along the way for you guys. Makes it take a little bit longer, but not terribly long. It probably added 20 minutes to the job, stopping and moving the camera and pushing the power button, but not too much. If I didn't love you guys, I wouldn't go through the effort. Someday maybe the YouTube channel will cover my losses. But I'm having fun, that's what matters. I enjoy it. Alright guys, it's been a pleasure having you here. I hope you got some from this video. And if you could torque the like button for me, I'd really appreciate it. Maybe subscribe if you want to see some more tool and automotive repair related content. I appreciate you guys. You're awesome. I'll see you in the next video if you subscribe.